Hello and welcome back to another video. I might sound a little bit different. I'm kind of away for the holidays, but I bought my microphone and I thought I'd get this video up for you as soon as I could. So we've got the update 1.27.1 common test patch notes released today. And this is going to be the first big update of 2025. It's going to be pretty huge. We're going to have the British heavies for some pretty significant rebalances of tier 10 tanks. We're going to have a couple of Onslaught changes, and then just a couple of general common test patch note things. So, starting off first of all with the British twin-barreled heavies. These are the new British heavy tanks, the first of which, the premium tank we had in the Christmas boxes for Holiday Ops 2025. So, the bottom of the line, so the tier 7, which is going to be called the Chopper. It is going to have the double-barreled mechanic straight away, which is quite nice. Following on then, so we've got the tier 8, the Conceiver. Once again, got the double-barreled mechanic. The tier 9, the Contender. Once again, the double-barreled mechanic. And then the top of the new tech tree is going to be called the Can Opener. They do have some quite interesting names, let's put it that way. But if you want to check out what these heavy tanks are going to be like, I have a video up in the top right corner now which will run you through every single one of these tanks, basically ranking them for you. So you'll get a really good idea of what this new tech tree is actually going to be looking like. So we'll skip over all of that because I've already got a video on all of that, so we don't need to worry too much about that. But here we go. This is the bit which most of you are going to be the most excited about. We have vehicle rebalancing. So we have got 4 large rebalancing, and then one which kind of focuses on the lower tiers of a tech tree. So, first of all, we have the E100 getting a buff, really quite nice. The Type 71 getting a buff, really quite nice. The M5Y also getting a buff, really quite nice. And finally, the 60TP is getting a nerf. The 60TP, if any of you play competitive, will just know is the bane of everyone. It's the meta tank, and it's boring. It's getting a nerf. Is it going to be enough? We'll have a look at that in a second. But essentially, 3 buffs, 1 nerf, and then the mouse is going to be getting the tier 5, tier 6, and tier 7 tanks buffed, just to kind of make progressing through the tech tree a little bit more convenient, which I'm all for because they are pretty weak tanks, to be fair, so bringing them up to compete with the meta a little bit more is completely fine by me. We've also got some tank tree, so there's some tech tree module reworking. So what they did back in about September time with lots of other tech trees, just removing some waste of time modules that you don't really ever need. They're basically removing those, so basically just streamlining some tech trees, and with that comes enhancing some stock configurations, so removing some outdated modules and basically just making it a little bit quicker, a little bit easier to progress through from tier 1 to tier 10. So that's basically all of the tech tree stuff. Let's have a look now at what that actually means in terms of buffs and nerfs. So let me scroll all the way back up to the top. We have got basically changes for the Tiger 1, basically just simplifying it. So removing some equipment, that's completely fine. So removing some of the kind of waste of time modules. Same for the Panzerkampfwagen 2, removing some modules. Same for the Panzerkampfwagen 3, Alphagen J, and the Alphagen E. Then we've got some other bits and bobs being added for the VK, so it's gaining the 40-ton gun, which is quite nice. Then some more module changes, and then for the Tiger 2, more module changes. Basically, all of these are module changes. So let's skip over all of these and go to the E75. So the frontal armour of the E75's turret is being changed from 245mm to 260mm. That's really quite nice. I believe that is the base turret, so the stock turret. So not the most upgraded turret, the stock turret. And it's also getting a 20mm increase to its side armour. That's really quite nice. So, let's move on now to having a look at the tier 10s. So, first of all for the tier 10s, let's have a look at the E100. So, it is getting the 12.8cm gun added for the E100 turret. That's quite nice. So I believe it's getting the mouse's gun off the top of my head. But basically the main changes are going to be its frontal turret armor is being increased from 270mm to 280mm. So a 10mm increase of the frontal armor of the turret. That'll be really quite strong. That should mean you basically need about 325 plus millimeters of penetration to reliably pen it. It's just going to make it a little bit more comfortable, and then they're just slightly increasing the traverse speed of the turret so you can kind of angle it a little bit quicker. So just kind of more quality of life changes on the tank, not necessarily statistical changes, more focusing on those quality of life, ease of play kind of stuff. That's completely fine by me. And then moving on to Japan. So here we go, the Type 71. We're getting some pretty big changes to the Type 71 here. So they are decreasing the dispersion of the gun from 0.28 0.42. So 0.42 is after firing. So it's going from 0.28 to 0.22 0.38. So sorry, 0.4, not 0.42 after firing. It's 0.28 in its maximum. I've not shot for a while. I have the gimmick working, so 0.28, that's what it currently is, and 0.42 without the gimmick, to 0.22 and 0.38. So 0.22 is going to be, I believe, slightly more accurate than the strict firing 103B. So the Type 71 might have just become, or at least definitely, the most accurate heavy tank in the game. Obviously, when its gimmick is working, and its gimmick has to be working, so basically you've not fired for, I believe it's 15 seconds, you get the maximum upgraded gimmick. It basically means that your shot is incredibly accurate. So that is really quite scary, and that's also a really quite nice change to its dispersion without the gimmick. 0.38 is passable, 0.42 is quite miserable. So that's a pretty significant change to the gun handling of the Type 71. Its top forward speed, so its forward speed getting increased by 5. That's also a huge change. It's getting 2 extra kilometers an hour reverse speed. That's also a huge change. Its engine fire chance has been halved. It did have an issue with being set on fire, so that's a pretty big change. Its frontal armor of the commander's cupola on the turret has been changed from 180 to 220 effective. That's huge. That will basically mean that the cupola is not really a weak point to some tier 9 tanks, most tier 8 tanks, especially if it's angled and you're not hitting it flat. That's pretty huge. And then also some pretty big changes here for the frontal armor of the hull. So the frontal armor of the hull has been changed from 120mm to 165mm. 120mm is weak, and it really does show you do get penned quite a lot in the frontal armor of the hull. However, 165 will mean that tier 8s and tier 9s once again are going to struggle to pen you. Obviously against tier 10s it's a different story, but effective armor is going to be a significant increase. So the Type 71 seems to be getting a pretty big buff, which has been due ever since its release last January. It has been massively underperforming. Hopefully that brings it up to speed. So let's just focus on the tier 10s here and find the 60 TP wherever they've decided to hide it. Here we go. So this is going to be the nerf for the 60 TP. So the dispersion of the 60 TP's turret has been changed from 0.38 to 0.4. So the gun is already incredibly unreliable in the 60 TP. It's now going to be even worse. So playing the 60 TP is basically now going to be mandatory in a sense to run vertical stabilizers on it, because 0.4mm of dispersion is horrendous, and you'll be missing 50% of your shots at range. You already miss about 30% of shots at range. Yeah, this is going to be quite a brutal change. I don't know if it's enough though, to be honest. But then we're losing some reload time, so we're losing a second of reload time. So basically, it's gaining a second of reload time. So you're now going to have 20.5 seconds reload time. So it's losing a bit of its DPM. I don't know if that's enough, to be honest with you. I feel like it should maybe be a 23-second reload, maybe a 22-second reload. So maybe, I don't quite know if that's enough. And it's going to be losing 100 hit points of base hit points, basically. So down from 2,600 to 2,500. Okay, I just don't really know if that's enough, to be honest. I feel like the 60 TP is still going to be a very strong tank. You know, yes, it addresses some of the issues of the tank with its gun handling, with basically its gun, its DPM, and its hit point, so it does hit all of those. I just don't know if it's enough. I feel like it should lose a bit more reload time, so it loses a lot more DPM, and I feel like it should maybe lose 200 to 250 hit points here instead of only 100. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays. Don't forget, these is just Common Test 1, and these changes can be changed. And maybe they will go, okay, no, we do need to make the 60 TP nerf a little bit more significant. And we could see some more changes in that regard. Then, coming on to the M5Y, if I can find where I've hidden it, there are some pretty huge changes coming for the M5Y. So, it's getting better dispersion. 0.38 to 0.37, so this is the 120mm gun. So, it's basically losing 0.01 dispersion. That's really nice. Its dispersion and turret traverse has also been decreased by 20%. That's really quite nice. It's losing a second of reload, 11 seconds to 10 seconds. It's losing 0.2 seconds aim time, 2.5 seconds to 2.3 seconds, and it's also gaining some better traverse speed in the turret. That's nice. Its penetration for the 120mm gun, so for its heat rounds, is going from 300mm to 310mm. That's pretty huge. Its AP shells are going from 252 to 260mm, so just a nice small increase. That will make it feel a lot more comfortable. And for the 105mm and the 120mm, so the turret, essentially, the M5Y is gaining 2 extra degrees of gun depression. It's going from 10 degrees to 12 degrees. 12 degrees will be filthy on the M5Y, and basically will make this tank incredible on a hull down, even more than it is currently. Its gun's just going to be better. It's going to have more aim time, so it's going to be more accurate. It's going to be shooting quicker, and it's going to have more gun depression. Not only that, it's gaining 2 miles an hour of reverse speed, as well as its frontal armor of the cupola is getting changed from 180mm to 210mm. And armour and other weak spots on the turret have been increased. So that's likely going to be the 2 spindles that kind of come down from the turret and hold it onto the hull. That's a huge change. The M5Y is probably going to be terrifying now. I feel like maybe they've gone a little bit too far with this. But we'll have to wait and see. I just feel like this thing's just going to be literally probably the best tier 10 tank on a hull down now. Its cupola is going to be almost unpennable. Especially not even visible with the extra 2 degrees of gun depression. Its gun is just going to be simply better. Yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a terrifying change in my opinion. I'm not really sure what I think about it. But there you go. That's all of the changes. I did want to spend quite a lot of time going over those because they are really quite important. But let's move on now to probably the final thing we're going to talk about, which is the Onslaught improvements. So, for the second season of the Year of the Manticore, which is coming in January with update 1.27.1, we are going to be getting some pretty significant changes. So, weekly missions are no longer going to expire, so you can basically play in the final week and complete all of the weekly missions, and therefore gain all of the points to be able to get yourself the Bond piece of equipment. That's really, really nice. This is a huge change. The number of players in the Legend rank will increase from 10% to 15%. So that's going to mean 5% more champion players are going to be able to reach the Legend rank. So that is going to be huge, making it a lot easier to obtain. Obviously, it diminishes its value. However, I think it's important because currently Legend rank is ridiculous. So 5% easier is completely fine in my opinion. They're also going to ease the platoon requirement so that 2 players in 2-player platoons can basically play together a little bit easier. So there's only going to be a 1 rank difference now between 2-player platoons and a 2 rank difference for 7-player platoons. So that's nice. A random change during the pre-battle countdown. You're going to be able to see the nicknames and ranks of the players on the opposing team, so you can see if you're playing against an Invil super platoon, I guess, straight away. Cool, I guess. I don't really know why they've done that, but okay. They're going to be adjusting a number of role skills. We don't really know what yet. We're going to have to wait and see that, but a number of role skills are going to receive balancing adjustments. And we're also going to be gaining 2 maps and losing 1 map. We're gaining Prokhorovka and Tundra and losing Redshire. So they are pretty big changes in my opinion. We've also got Frontline coming back and then some kind of new battle rating kind of thing, which is pretty irrelevant and not even worth talking about. But there you go. That is the update 1.27.1 common test patch note, completely broken down for you with the update in terms of buffs and nerfs for tanks, the Onslaught changes, and the new British heavy tanks. If you did enjoy, don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you think about the changes for the M5Y, the E100, the Type 71 and the 60TP. Do you agree that they go far enough, or maybe they don't go far enough? And don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you all soon.